shout out.
What was I just saying?
Oh, good morning. Good
Cassie
morning.
girl, good girl,
We
Cassie
are
girl.
here once again, live and direct. We love the More Motivation podcast, but it takes it to another level when we're in person to come and share with our audience. So I'm the co-host, Troy Christopher Moore. We're here with the founder and the president, Mr. Kendrick Moore. Good morning, Kendrick. How you doing this Monday morning?
Man, listen, I'm excited, man. Just had a fabulous week last week. Obviously you've been in town for a few days, so getting a chance to hang out with you, once a month, that's been a blessing for us. But man, I'm just excited when we talk about the content we get to deliver to people on a weekly basis, how
Yeah.
important that is to us to to just continue to build and grow the audience in different spaces. Something that we didn't even think about when we started this thing, but man,
Right.
based on the
Right.
feedback, it's been really important information that we provide.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And once again, to our listeners, man, we love to hear from you. And we're so grateful for our audience.
Yep.
As you said, this thing has just grown to leaps and bounds that we probably didn't see in the
Yes.
beginning.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But we're so grateful for not only being able to provide, but without listeners, there will be no one to talk to.
That's right.
So, so we're grateful for
That's
our
right.
listeners. So before we actually get into this week podcast, we like to do a shout out,
Yeah.
as we always do. So what's the shout out that we have for this week?
Yeah, so today, Troy, we're really going to shout out an event that's taking place a little bit later this morning. So I'll be getting
Gotcha.
prepared to go to our Empowerment Day. As I mentioned, as one of the assistant directors over at CAS CIAC, mainly doing a lot of work on the CAS side, the student activity side, we put on some magnificent events throughout the course of the year for our
Mm,
students throughout the state. So today, we're having our first annual Empowerment Day, which is the
gotcha.
combination of a couple events that they've had even before I arrived there to work. So we got the Men of Color Conference that we used to host, and then our Women in Leadership Conference, which is comprised of like panels. We have some of the most magnificent panelists from around the state.
Gotcha.
We actually have some powerful students on the panels, and then we have some unbelievable breakout sessions. Actually, a good friend of mine is doing one of them. My man Mark Mojica, he's hosting one of the breakout sessions today. So I'm excited, man. So we get students from around the state. We got close to 1,000 students that'll be in
Wow.
attendance
Wow.
over at Farmington High School a little bit later this morning. It'll be about a 5-hour event overall, man. But we're looking
Wow.
for a powerful event.
Wow. Man, that's magnificent.
Yeah,
And, especially to get that many young people
yeah,
um, to bring that message of empowerment to them in all different
that's
phases, man.
right.
That's
That's
that's a
right.
that's a
That's right.
beautiful thing, beautiful thing. And I hear Farmington High School is like one of the most immaculate schools. Like,
Listen, I
oh,
got a chance to visit last year. I think that was the first year that that building was open.
mm,
It's one of the nicest schools that I've definitely ever been in. And I've been to some
wow,
high schools across the country, some of the nicest schools. That Farmington High School it's big. They have everything.
yeah,
They
yeah,
have everything.
yeah,
Everything.
yeah. I
Yep.
know a few people, their kids go there,
Yeah.
so they were telling me
Yep.
like the state of the art
Mm-hmm. For sure.
school. So now we want to talk about last week's
Yeah.
podcast.
Yep.
The feedback that we got have been magnificent. While I was on vacation, Crudy stepped in, did a
Mm-hmm.
fabulous job, as she always do. But it's
Gassy.
just great to see her go from the producer side on to the other side.
Right. Right.
So share with us some of the feedback that
Yeah.
we got from the last
So
week.
again, Troy, we every time, and she brought up this the concept in from her classes, business classes, we understand it as opportunity cost.
Yeah.
So anytime you're doing one thing, you're giving up something else.
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter what, no
Mm-hmm.
matter whether you're conscious of it or not.
Right.
So the key is understanding the cost of it, right? The opportunity cost. Like when you decide to make a decision to do something, like how much are you really paying for it?
Right.
And when we talked about the beautiful liabilities, the conversation was about diving into things that impact your image, you know, whether it's the I chose the beautiful girl over her personality.
Mm-hmm.
I chose the nice car and spent a lot of money on it versus just getting a vehicle because of I want it
Right.
and just to get me from A to B.
Right.
the image thing,
Right.
and then
Right.
trying to keep up with that image, but mainly how much is it costing you?
Yeah.
And not financially, but is it damaging your integrity? So that
Mm.
conversation about beautiful
Mhm.
liabilities is really something to examine every day as you navigate life,
Yeah.
because if you continue to make these repeated decisions that happen that impact your image over your integrity, it'll put you in a dangerous space for the long run. So it was a big time conversation. We got some big time feedback from it.
Man, that was phenomenal,
Yep.
phenomenal.
Cassie.
And that part that was shared that about, and I don't even think we think about that. We just automatically think about, oh man, I want to get this.
Right.
This is going blah blah blah, but we don't think about what it's going to cost us to
That's
get it.
right. That's
You know
right.
what I mean? So I
Mm-hmm.
think that was very impactful,
Yeah.
in sharing that to
Mm-hmm.
enlighten us to understand,
Mm-hmm.
not to be fearful to
Right.
go for it, but just have an understanding
Understanding of why.
of the why.
Why we're going for it. Right.
Right,
Right.
right, right. Awesome, awesome. So now let's get into this week's podcast,
Yeah.
because as you were sharing before we went on, and you were sharing like the title of it, I'm kind of intrigued as to where we're gonna go.
Yeah.
And just to kind of let our listeners know, and we've shared this before, you know, our role, my role is kind of to get the title of it, but we never really know how which this thing really gonna go.
That's right. That's right.
So that's why I say I'm kind of intrigued just based upon the
Right.
title of it.
Right.
So
Right.
talk to us about this particular podcast this week.
Listen, the world we're in, Troy, really made me concentrate on this. And I'm not sure who quoted this in a song. I don't want to mess it up. I don't know if it was Mobb Deep or somebody. But in one of their verses, they said that there's a war going on outside. You
Mob
know,
Deep, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
Mob
there's
Deep,
a
yep.
war going on outside. But what we need to know and what we're going to tackle today is the deepest and most impactful wars are going on inside.
Correct,
You know, the most impactful wars are going on inside. So
correct.
that's the conversation we're going to have today.
Man, awesome, man. Let's just not even play around with this.
Yeah.
Let's jump right into this, man. What we
Yes.
got? What
Yep.
we got?
So we got to and there's levels to everything.
Yeah.
So even when we talk about this conversation about there's a war going on inside, every day each one of us we deal with these different conversations on our own, what to do versus what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And how extreme they are will determine like the magnitude in terms of how they'll impact you.
Right.
So just simple things like, and I shouldn't say just simple, but because depending on who you are, your disciplines versus your desires could look totally different.
Yeah. Yeah.
How disciplined you are, the things you're supposed to be disciplined with versus the things that you desire.
Right.
Can you
Right.
stay in that space and understand that? Just right from wrong.
Mm.
Understanding that, like, this is right, this is wrong. You know, doing what's easy versus what's right.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
People that choose the easy route now are usually people that might struggle down the road versus choosing what's right
Yeah.
now, what's right to do, will provide you with that, a longer life of peace and happiness.
Right.
There are people that just struggle with certain things. And like I said, they become very, very severe for a lot of people.
Mm.
And when we say there's a war going on inside, one of the things to understand is some of those people, when they're in those places and in those spaces, they're not fully aware what's happening to them in real time.
Right.
They're not fully aware. Like we talked about it before, sit still, there's a storm that's happening. And if you continue to go down this road with not making the proper decisions, you become more susceptible to when things get tougher, the war gets more extreme inside
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
you haven't been making the right choices with the little things that required little risk. So just understanding that, and then all of a sudden, Troy, they, over a period of time of doing this, they become the first people that notice it, right? Because when they look in the mirror, it's like they become a stranger to themselves.
Mm,
So they become those first people to kind of notice that thing when they look
yeah.
at they're not the people that they thought they were. So that understanding that really like that war inside, it's a very, very powerful thing, and one that we really need to examine a little more deeper than we have.
Man, that brings up, just in your talking, it brings up one of our previous podcasts of when we're dealing with these storms
Yep.
to just sit
Yep.
still.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Just kind of sit still.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Got to understand it. These topics are
Yeah,
real.
yeah,
These
man.
topics are real.
Just
Yep.
sit still, man. So now with you mentioning that, the outsiders can't see
Mm-hmm.
the internal battles from others. Um, are there any times where people intentionally,
Mm-hmm.
right, hide their battles?
Troy, that happens all the time.
Mm.
That that happens all the time because we're just in a society where judgment of strength and weakness is it's what's the word I want to use? It doesn't actually affect or have the right meaning to the thing that they're judging.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So they hide the fact that something's going on
Right.
because it's seen as a weakness.
Yeah.
So when we talk about this conversation of that war going on inside, now it becomes this fear of letting people know what's going on,
Yeah.
right? So now how long are you going to hold on to it? Like, because if the longer you hold on to it, the worse it gets.
Correct.
And
Correct.
now we know if you're talking about a war, the war is made up of many battles,
Mm-hmm.
and the more small battles you lose, all of a sudden it becomes this bigger thing. Well, now you lost the war.
Wow. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that part is really something to make sure that we examine when we talk about, man, like us on the outside, we can't really see it, but those people looking in the mirror at first, they become unrecognizable to themselves. We can't see really what's going on until they continue to hold on to it for longer and longer periods of time.
Yeah.
And then we on the outside, we start noticing this difference.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
start noticing the difference in the
Right.
people, how they look, what they're doing, how they're moving around, etc. But so, man, listen, that's probably one of the most important parts of this conversation when we say there's a war going on inside, because it can get so severe that it causes people to make some unfathomable type decisions.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's becoming we're in a scary world,
Right. Right.
and some scary things have been happening.
Right.
So that fear of letting these things be known, that fear of being judged, it's keeping people in a space. It's crippling people even more
Yeah.
than what could have happened if they were
Yeah.
just strong enough to open up.
Right. Right.
So that part, Troy, is very critical, because now, like I said, now it moves from that space where those people on the outside, they had no clue. You saw yourself as a stranger because you started to change. Now what's on the outside, we start to see somebody a little bit different.
Mm.
We start to notice the changes in you. But still, what still hasn't been known or still hasn't been let out is these people saying, like, man, I'm really struggling internally.
Right. Right. And it also affects relationships of those on the outside.
Oh man, more than anything.
You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yes.
Because even in our infancy of judging the individual
Right.
without knowing, like if you got an internal battle going on,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, hey man, you kind of what we do now is, man, this dude acting
Oh,
funny,
yeah,
man.
right. Right.
This
Right.
dude acting
Right.
funny, man. You
Right.
know what I mean? Yo, bump him,
Right.
man. He acting funny,
Right.
but not knowing he's dealing with something. You know what I mean?
And Troy, that has so much to do, and not to cut you off, but that just has
Right,
so much to do with the environments we grew up in our home,
right,
with not understanding and know
right,
how to recognize when
right,
people are dealing with stuff. So while they're struggling, we're being dismissive.
right. Correct.
We so quick
Correct.
to judge.
Right.
And that's another reason when I mentioned in that segment, that's one of the reasons why the people are just staying in that shell with this
Right.
fear of letting it out. You're going to
Right.
judge me anyway.
Right. Yeah.
So man, no, like I said, I didn't mean to cut you off, but man,
No,
now
no, that's good.
man, listen.
That's good. That's good.
Yep.
Because actually, I want to kind of expand on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen this happen, and I've actually lived this. I'm sure you lived
Right.
this,
Yep.
where again, same example, like you do something, man, this dude acting funny,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm the person. If somebody else do something that's an outsider,
Mm-hmm.
hey man, are you okay?
Oh my God.
Is everything good? Like, so talk to us about why we pick and choose who we want to go deeper with to find concerns, but others is, man, you acting funny.
We have this weird thing, Troy, because it happens in families too,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
where it's like some unwritten rules of how you're supposed to act with certain people. When we just make decisions to just care about everybody the same,
Right.
the same.
Right. Right.
We'll be able to avoid those situations. But because you are my family member or because you're supposed to be my friend, almost this thing of Troy, one, you're supposed to know what's wrong with me without me even telling you.
Right.
Or two, you just got to deal with what I'm doing
Right.
regardless.
Right.
you know? And so, just like you said, the other person kind of feels that too.
Right.
So, a
Right.
lot of times they maybe even avoid asking you what's wrong
Mm-hmm.
because they know what might come with the territory.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it becomes easier to ask a stranger because they ain't going to
You'll
respond
respond.
that way.
Correct.
They're
Correct.
not going to respond that way.
Right. Correct.
We live in a weird world. This world is crazy.
Yes.
This world. Like,
It
and it's
is.
just with these preconceived notions that we have inside.
Right.
And a lot of it stems from the fact that we just are not great communicators. Because
Yeah,
what you're
we're not.
describing is, why can we communicate with strangers better than we can communicate with people we're supposed to love?
Right. Right. Right.
Why? It is why. Like, why can we communicate with people that we don't even know
Right.
and not judge them and not hold anything against what they say? We take their responses for what they are.
Right.
Because with that question, Troy, you kind of create the war inside for some
Mm-hmm.
people
Yeah.
because now they
Yeah.
feel they can't open up to people.
Right.
They
Right.
feel they can't open up.
Right.
You create the war inside. So,
Right.
no, that's a great segment, man. I'm glad you touched on that before we moved on, man, because that's a powerful conversation to have.
Yeah. That's a powerful
Because it's a
conversation.
real conversation.
Right.
And we just keep navigating life. I'm gonna stop because I can keep going. We
No.
just keep
No.
navigating life, just going through it and ruining relationships that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
started with not a simple conversation that ended up with a war inside. And guess what? Now ain't nobody
No,
communicating with each
nobody's
other.
saying nothing. Right. Right. And now it's, hey, I'll see you at the next funeral.
Right, right, right,
You know what I
right.
mean? Like, oh
Yep,
my gosh.
yep.
Wow.
Man,
Wow.
man.
All right. So now, because and I'm glad you gave that feedback, but
Yeah,
when you brought up some things, it just kind of sparked me to
yeah,
ask
yep,
that
yep.
question. So now, I can't even imagine what it must look like, when outsiders witness internal pain of others.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about, what you feel of what it may look like.
Yeah. Troy, as I mentioned, and I think holding on to this topic was intentional because we're hearing some stories, man, like that's going on now that we can't even imagine, what happened. Like, how did
Yeah.
these things get to these places?
Right.
Like, what's going on? So those burdens of the war can become very heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
They become very heavy. And as I mentioned a short while ago, they cause people to make decisions that you this like, how can someone do that? Like that level of decision.
Right.
What is going on? We never look internal yet, but what is going on with that why?
Right. Right.
But the only answer that we can really come up with, because we don't feel that any outside factor should be able to drive somebody there, is to kind of conclude like there's a war inside, like
Yeah.
something heavy is going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just understanding that level of burden that's been placed on them internally.
Yeah.
You start seeing it, Troy. You just think of somebody who, a family member, a mom or dad that might just pick up and walk away from their family.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, that I'm they in a certain career that just walk off the job.
Right.
Like what happened for you to make that level of decision?
Yeah.
People that have been friends forever that just say, you know what, I'm just going to stop talking to you. I'm not.
Right.
Like there has to be something going on inside that led them there.
Yeah.
It has to.
Of course. Of
Because
course.
when we talk about any of our external problems, Troy, one of the things to understand, we see external as the outcome. The internal part happened first.
Right.
With
Right.
with anything, there's a
Right.
root to the problem.
Correct. Correct.
That thing started off small.
Right.
That holding on to that pain started off small.
Right.
But when you got days mounting into weeks, mounting into months, mounting into years, you make a decision where you just walk off without saying bye to your family.
Wow.
That's the
That's
magnitude of
tough.
it. And that's what people are dealing with every day.
Yeah.
And we don't do a good enough job of really opening those doors and making people feel welcome. It's our job as outsiders to open our arms and make people feel as welcome as possible.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah, we do.
So at the very least, those people that are struggling feel that they at least have a chance.
Yeah.
Because once those things start cycling, they get to the moment of, we talked about this way back when people lose hope. It's the one thing you don't want to lose
Right.
is hope.
Right. Right.
And when they lost hope in themselves, when they looked in the mirror and they don't recognize themselves, when they lost hope and understand that people see them and don't recognize them for who they are,
Mm.
when they get to that point and it gets to that next level, when they're making certain decisions that no one can even imagine,
That's tough.
man, listen, life is hard for a lot of people.
Yeah. That's tough.
Life is hard for a lot of people. But we just got to try our best to understand that the root to those causes, when there's at that point, we got to try to open our arms for them so hopefully they can open up.
Yeah. It and as we get ready to conclude this podcast, um, I was thinking about a couple, and I mean, it's just devastating
Mm-hmm.
where they have been married, I think maybe 15 years,
Mm.
maybe 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was their, and from the outside,
Mm-hmm.
it looked like a beautiful marriage,
Wow.
right? Their anniversary came, you know, they went, had the anniversary dinner, and the next day the guy was like, I want a divorce.
Wow.
Just out of the blue. And and she's obviously distraught. And I'm saying, like, wait, what? And then talking to him, the thing that hit me, like
Mm.
what you talked about with the war on the inside,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm kind of interested to get your feedback about this. The thing that hit me was the divorce thing was critical,
Mm-hmm.
but he said, I've been feeling like this since we got married. So now you pretty much were Hollywood with this marriage where you probably deserve an Academy Award because you pretended for 15 years. Y'all got kids, da 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 da. And you saying you never really wanted to be married. So now,
Mm.
as we get ready to conclude you know, because this
Wow.
is a heavy
Wow.
topic. Um, you know, provide the audience with some outlets of more than they can see regarding this
Mhm.
and give them some hope
Mhm. Mhm.
in regards to what they may be dealing with, those that are listening with us as we get to conclude with
Yeah.
this week's podcast.
Troy, man, like I'm I've dealt with battles, you've dealt with battles. And when I always say it's so critical to have people around to open up
Right.
to some degree.
Right. Right.
To some degree. Um, because just like you just mentioned the couple, you know, I've seen people struggle,
Yeah. Yeah.
and sometimes it got to a point where it was like, man, it's not that it was too late, but it was far down the road in their internal battle.
Right.
And other times, it may not have been that far down the road where, you get a chance to talk to some people and help them with their issues and things that are going on, man. But one of the first parts though is really awareness, man.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
understand what's going on. Like, is it just a decision of right or wrong, easy to right, discipline versus like, is it one of those, is it still in that low risk phase?
Right. Right.
Did it just start feeling this way in a couple months, a couple weeks or whatever it might be? But that awareness is important, to understand like
Yeah.
what's really going on with me in the moment, and then being honest about it. You know, that honesty is a strength that
Mm-hmm.
the society has turned it into something that makes it look like it's a weakness.
Right.
Like
Right.
there's so much judgment that comes with being honest, because when you're being honest about something that you don't want to open up about just intentionally, there's usually some reason you don't want to open up
Mm-hmm.
because of the severity of the outcome.
Right.
But
Yep.
because society puts these stigmas on opening up, and oh, you weak for saying that. Like, how could
Yeah.
you say that? People stay in that shell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then now they continue to make bad choices. They
Mm.
continue to have these unresolved issues. They continue to remain in those spaces.
Right.
So
Right.
for our audience, those are a couple things, like that awareness is critical.
Yeah.
And then being honest with yourself about what's going on. The early awareness, just like with anything that's major, whether it's a medical issue or anything, what they say, early detection.
Right. Right.
Early detection, the
Right.
earlier the better.
Right.
And it's the same thing when it comes to things that are impacting us mentally and inside. Being honest about how
Mm.
you're feeling. People in certain climates, environments, cultures, how they grow up, they will hide being hurt, hide being in pain, hide something that's bothering them so they won't have to go to the hospital. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Right.
I don't need to
Yeah.
go to the doctor.
Right. Yeah.
3 months later,
Yeah.
they're on a deathbed in the
Right.
hospital. And it's
Right.
something that if they'd have just went to the hospital after day one, knowing something was bothering them,
Right.
they could have been saved. Like, and
Right.
so it's a real thing.
Yeah.
That awareness and being honest about what's going on and how you're feeling. I'm not saying it's easy, but you got to be aware and honest,
Yeah.
right? So for our audience, like, just ask yourself, like, in those areas, look at it, like, what war are you fighting?
Mm.
No matter
Mm.
how small or how big, like, what war are you in right now?
Mm. Great
And
question.
and guaranteed, that it's something that even if you're looking at it from an external thing, if you can count it as being external right now, there's a root to it. There's a root to it.
Yeah.
If it has to do with you and only you, there's a root to it.
Yeah.
And it probably started internally. So lock in.
Listeners, you heard it here. We kind of went really kind of deep in this week podcast. And then just also to just let you know, when he talked about there's a root, anything that grows, it has to have a root.
Mm.
Right. So
Mm.
just understand that. Please, with especially with this topic that we talked about, we hit some heavy hitters. Hit us up if you want to, just have further discussions.
Right.
Definitely send us your feedback. We're here for you. You know, you can catch us on Spotify, Podbean, and More Basketball website. We thank you so much for tuning in. We thank you so much for your support. And again, if it's something that you want to have an extra conversation, please just let us know.
Right.
Have a fabulous week. And thank you so much for More Motivation.
I just want to thank my son, Kendrick Moore, for dedicating his life to helping our youth. I know it's a tough task, but keep up the good work with More Basketball Clinic. I'm proud of the man you have become. I love you.